As you might know, I'm uploading a short form series of decorating a part every day on this level. And well, I've finished all 9 parts of decoration, so that means round 1 of decorating is finished. And I'm going to be explaining what I made during the time. So to start off, I made a pretty simple block design here. It just has an outer line and then some inner glow, which is how I made the block. And now this little glow thing goes on top of the player to make the player brighter, which makes it look better. Then we have the slopes, which actually aren't that complicated at all throughout the part. They're just, again, the normal slopes, and then there's an added layer of glow across them on the top and bottom half of the wave part. Then we have these stars. What I did to make the stars is I placed down the stars. I actually copied and pasted them all around already here. And then after the fact, I had to put glow on them all, which was a little annoying. And then I used these color triggers to make them have this effect. We have this little guy. Comment down below what you think he should be named. And the name with the most likes, I'll name him that. Then it's just the same slope, glow, and stars. Here it's just a little difficult of a transfer. As you can see, the glow doesn't really work well here. If any of you know how to fix that, please let me know. And then there's this short dual part which also has it. And the stars inside are actually symmetrical, which I like. And then I have these cool spike designs, which I actually really like. It consists of a main thing, a smaller main thing, and then 2 glows. Then the last part I haven't really talked about for this part is I put this glow beam thing in the middle of the wave all throughout it, which I actually like a lot. It adds some design to it. And with all of that, that is part 1 of round 1 complete. Now on to part 2, possibly my favorite part of the level. I have made a bit of a water design, a bit of a waterfall part. To start off, I made the kind of like structure thing I made here, but a little bit longer and more watery color. And I also added these little fire things as if it is like flying down. And if we are to go into a start position and look at it, you can see they fly up into the part, which I like. Then I have this waterfall, which I made with these waterfall blocks. Then back into a wave, I did the same structuring and the glow as I did the last time. I also added some sideways spikes of this kind right here. Added waterfalls to the background to give it some extra, I don't know, make it look a little better. And I also added some more of these, which are just slowly going up and down, as you can see. And I also accidentally changed these to be fully blue, and I'm not changing it back because it's funny. I also have this short little dual part, which is basically just 3 clicks. Don't look over there. And I also have this cool looking saw blade. And then as you can see the fire things again. And with that, that's part 2 of round 2 complete. Then we go on to part 3, which I start off with a little bit of an ocean down here, as you can see. I also have this like metal structure that's meant to be coming from the ocean. I want this clubstep monster to be like tilting over and falling into the water, and I'll probably do that in part of round 2 once I get to this part. Then keep the ocean on. As you can see, I actually used the water sideways to make it so that it looks like it's not going into the side of the wave. It's another wave part. The bottom, I have it as the wave design I did here. And on the top side, I have it as the wave, the wave design that I did in the first part. And I also added these little monsters that are trying to eat the other ones. Escape! Escape, Jeremy! And then this one. Are they speaking to him? Or are they trying to eat? And then this one as well. And then another dual part right here at the end, just like there was in the second part. Then of course the color triggers for the stars. That is part 3 of round 1 complete. Now we go on to part 4, which is where I started to make some of the gameplay and decoration as well. If I were to show hitboxes on, the stars are kind of acting as if they're the spikes in this area. So you have to dodge the stars to survive these 2 orbs, which I honestly really like it. Then we have this challenging jump right here. And I actually started adding some arrows when I built this part, which I think fit in pretty well. I might add some animation to them later. Then I have this ship part, which is interesting, I would say. All these clubstep monsters, I actually already have a block design from another level I was building a bit ago. I'll just place like a little 4x4 real quick. Special, use, create, and I just have a template, and then I just had to grab these and change them to change their color to a good color. And as you can see, I actually added an extra, well, you can't really see it that well, but I added an extra thing right here so that these would go to the correct color, because otherwise they would be this color or this color. These little like pillar things to stop you from like doing the orbs too easily. For some reason I made them upside down. I don't know why I made them upside down. It just felt fitting for me. And with that, that is part 4 done of round 1. Now we move on to part 5, which is possibly my second favorite part of the level. And this is actually the first speed changes since the first speed change at the beginning, which is cool. Just these 2 jumps. And then you go into a buffer, and then that kind of click pattern in the UFO. As you can see, I brought the waterfalls back, and also the saw blade design I had in the second part. But I also I have made a new saw design with a normal saw and 2 of these, which make it actually perfectly symmetrical, because the reason they always work the same is I added custom 360 so that it always looks how I want it to, which is nice. When going into the UFO, you can see that I changed it back to 2 times speed with a funny looking speed portal. Weird dimensions, but it works, so whatever. And then some of the pillar things again. Then we go into a very short wave, which is kind of just filler gameplay because I didn't know what to add here, and more waterfalls, and of course, the slope side and the glow. And on all of these, I've actually had the normal slope design blocks. They have just been invisible because that makes them have the hitbox without making it look worse. Then low mini into the orb. With that done, part 5 complete. Then moving on to part 6, which starts off with another speed portal thing like this, where you have to do these 2 jumps, like that. Of course, I added the fire design back from part 2. And on the top side, you can see I added the dark part because it's back to being a bit of waterfall and space themed. Because the theme of this level is actually space and water themed. Back to an ocean also. And there's platforms on the ground, and you see this little monster guy? Watch what he does, watch what he does. Boom! He comes up from the ground. Then just a couple of timings, of course with the stars above. And then right here, you can see I have these hitboxes, the top ones being covered by the stars. And these monsters are no touch because they just jump up to cover the area of the hitbox. And actually right here is using a pretty cool mechanic in Geometry Dash. Basically, you hit the orb so that while the bottom ball is going across, the top one's coming down, and it hits off the other ball. It bounces back up, and then, there, like that, and just completes it. And if you don't hit the orb, which you can still survive doing, but you can't survive the spike while doing that. And with all of that, that is part 6 complete of round 1. Now, part 7, I started it off with a bit of inspiration from Rust, actually. As you can see, there's this kind of orb, which you have to click twice on. You have to click twice to jump because there's a J block, so you can't just hold. And then there's a black orb timing. Now, this timing actually looks really hard, but if I turn on show hitboxes, you can see I actually nerfed it a bit because it was too hard beforehand. And you can also do that, but you don't actually survive. It's just because I have ignore damage on. Okay, now to the ship part of this 7th part. I again have the block design, the custom block design that I have in here to create blocks. And then I also have the dark blue spikes from part 1. And then I actually have 2 spider orbs to do that, which I honestly think it fits really well. If I turn the song on real quick, it just syncs very well, and I like it a lot. Then I brought the saw blades back from over here in this part, and then another clubstep monster that's probably the biggest clubstep monster here, and then half speed portal in the middle of him to slow you down because the song starts slowing down here. That is part 7 complete. On to part 8. And part 8 is actually the second to last part of the level. I started off with some of the stars to cover, to cover the stars. I used the stars to cover the invisible spikes, and then of course on the bottom there's the monster trying to eat you. Then I have these 3 pretty difficult orb timings actually, but I still like how they work. And I have the 2 spiky things coming from the ocean. Then the 2 dash orbs, which of course I have the stars on the top to block it off from the top. And I also have the monsters on the bottom. In the middle part of this dash orb, I change it to a wave. And there's this slope here which has an H block on it just to make sure you don't die to this first slope by hitting the top of it right there. And then of course we have this wave now, which has the stars on top. This time I actually copied and pasted them by just like grabbing them and going like this. But yeah. The monsters on the bottom, of course, you just have to have them in a part like this. It just fits the space pretty well. And yeah, that is part 8, the second last part complete for round 1. Now we have the final part, part 9 of the level, which starts off with this little like block design, which is kind of like this one, just lengthified. And I have this little beam in the middle because otherwise it looks like that, and that doesn't look good. Actually, I made part 8 and part 9 the exact same theming, but whatever. Then, of course, the second pillar and more of the stars and the clubstep monsters. Those are not clubstep monsters. Yes, this is a clubstep monster, not a deadlock monster, a clubstep monster. Anyways, of course, the stars on top. This star actually has no hitbox, as you can see. That's just because otherwise the timing is too hard. But other than that, this timing is pretty easy. Then we have another like little block thing here, of course, just so that you can stand on. And the song isn't too active here, which is why I have it. And then you go into this ship. And while it looks like you use a spider orb here, the spider orb is actually no touch, and you actually use a teleport orb, because the spider orb basically just makes it so that you don't hold the click. So you would hold and your ship would just go boop, boop, and that would make you die. And I don't want that. So with the teleport orb, you can do this. Then I have this big saw blade and some stars on the top. It's actually just these 2 stars that are actual hitboxes, but it's pretty hard. I'd say it's pretty hard to hit these stars and survive it. And then we go to the final part of the last part. Well, not really, it's the second final part, but whatever. We start off with this little jump into a pink pad. It's simply because otherwise, without the pink pad, it's just a lot harder jump, and I don't really like it that much. This monster actually comes from the bottom to try and get you naturally, which I like. And then this one jumps up so that you don't just let go. And then there's this little final orb, which is a bit of a late click. Oh, wow, I clicked so late there. How did I click so late? But it's a bit of a late click to land on this platform. And then there's the ending of the level right here, which is just a very nice ending, in my opinion. Just a nice little swoop up. And I also use these black blocks, or they're actually white blocks. I just changed them to the color black. And I had them fade in and on top of everything, just so that it looks like a nice clean ending. And the last little spikes are actually fake, just because I don't want you to die of them. That just seems unfair. All the way up there. And yeah, that is the final part of round 1 finished. And with that, round 1 is complete. The entire level has at least some deco in every single part now. And well, you may be thinking, this is where you're gonna end. No, because this is where I introduce round 2. Now see, round 2 is going to be just slightly different. I'm allowing collaborators now. So, to give an example of this, I got my friend Player08 to add some glow, or he wanted to add some glow to the level to make it look better, and here's how that looks. Now, if you want to collab in this level, go into the comments of this video and say that you want to collab and what you want to add to the level. And I might let you. We'll see. If I let you, I will send you the ID in Geometry, and yeah, please don't leak the ID. And yeah, new short will be uploaded tomorrow about more deco. Subscribe, because I have 555 subscribers. I will make a video playing your guys' challenges. Anyways, goodbye.